Okay.
Mhm.
Belle, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to talk with you and to have you on this podcast. I've already filled my listeners in with just a brief bio and background on you, but I would love if you could just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into your line of work, what you're most passionate about, really anything that you would like to introduce yourself with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. So I am a financial advisor. This was not the path I ever foresaw myself taking. I got my degree in English education. I was a high school English teacher before I very quickly burnt out and all these things. But I always held on to this passion for teaching and for leadership and for connecting with people in that scope of, how can I be of service to you in a way that really up levels you and moves you forward in a lot of things. So when I was searching for my next career, I stumbled upon the financial office that I ended up signing on with, and their primary focuses were education and leadership. They're like, the dollars and the cents are all the front facing stuff. That's of course the stuff that we deal with, but at our heart, at our core, it's about how can we improve people's lives through their finances, specifically through financial education and access. And I'm in an office that is really trying to transform the financial industry. We are very quickly becoming, more 60 to 70% female. We're getting more minorities. We're getting a very strong basis in the LGBTQA alphabet mafia, whatever they're at right now, bringing them in. We're having a big conversation around ethical investing, green investing, different things like that, and really understanding that money and wealth is more than just numbers in your bank account. So it's talking with people about how can we help your finances, how can we help you achieve your dream through your finances, whether that's buying a house and leaving $1 million to your kids, or opening up a dog sanctuary, or leaving this planet in a better situation. How can we help you with that? And you do the dreaming, we'll do the financial planning and make all of that happen. So that's what I've become very passionate about, and why I'm here today with you.
Oh, you just said so many things that got me so excited. I'm trying to hold back my excitement as I'm listening to you. First of all, I did not even know that you had that connection in your background to education.
Mhm.
I was a teacher before this. Oop, just smacked the microphone, which is probably going to make a loud sound. So I'm going to fix that. There we go. Okay. I was a teacher before I got into what I'm doing now. And so that connection to education and the empowerment that it gives people to achieve those dreams and those goals that they have set for themselves, there's just no denying how important education is in that process. So I love that that is your background and that that is what brought you to this passion and place that you're at now as a financial expert. And then I also got so excited just hearing about the diversity incorporated within your, what did you call it? It's your team or panel of financial experts.
Yeah, team. We usually call it a team. We're all independent contractors. We all work for ourselves, by ourselves, but we recognize the power of a team. So we have an office where we can all meet in Denver, but we also have people on our team that are in Virginia, in Texas, in California, all these different places. And so we'll meet virtually, we'll meet in person, and really pull from each other's expertise of like, oh, hey, I have someone who needs help with taxes. I'm going to call in the person who used to work as a CPA. I need someone who specializes in real estate. Okay, I'm going to call in this gal who used to be a real estate agent, but now works in finance. And we just really collaborate with each other, and we recognize the power of numbers. So we call it a team.
Okay. Wow, that is awesome. So you have so much diversity represented within your team. And then it sounds like you've got a lot of resources to meet pretty much anybody who would come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got virtual options and your team is spread out over multiple states, then that's pretty awesome to give such an accessibility piece to anyone looking for help within their finances.
Yeah, accessibility is our big thing. we're really trying to disrupt the financial industry and make it something that helps not just the top 10%. That's, it's kind of like, all right, you're in the top 10%. You don't need as much help. You absolutely need management, but you don't need education quite as much. So we work all across the United States. We can meet virtually. You can meet with someone in your state or someone not in your state. Really, it all varies. And through there, we work with people who don't have any money that they can invest, and we help them get out of debt and into a place where they can start investing and growing their future. We work with people who have 6 figures to invest. We work with a whole range of people because it's about everyone deserves access to finance and financial well-being.
Oh, that is so awesome. That's amazing. I'm really, really happy to hear that you and your team are doing this work and making that so available to people. So, okay, we'll come back to that towards the end when we kind of wrap this up and letting our listeners know how they could get a hold of you or get in touch with your team if that's something that they're interested in. But I would love to transition into the connection between financial stability and then living sustainably, of course, because that's what this podcast is all about, all things sustainable. And in the first couple of episodes, I was telling my listeners so much. I'm going to edit that out and reword. In the first couple of episodes, I told my listeners and chatted with one person so far about the obvious impacts on climate change and our choices as individuals and corporations, basically what we as humanity are doing to this planet throughout history, and how we are in a time of our life where this really needs to change. We need a massive global scale level of change across the board. But there are a lot of listeners coming into this podcast from various backgrounds. And I recognize that not everybody is going to be as interested in or as educated within the realm of climate change and the impact that sustainable living can have on the planet. So I also want to bring in more of a well-rounded approach to this conversation about living sustainably that includes the other aspects of our personal lives that can be really relatable to people no matter where they're coming from. So for example, if people don't relate as much to, no, this is the joy of editing. I get to reword what I say all the time. So if people aren't as comfortable yet talking about climate change, or they're still processing everything that they're learning and hearing about the planet side of this conversation, I would love to meet people where they're at and talk about their finances. Or later in the podcast, we'll get into physical health and mental health, community. All of this is interconnected within the realm of sustainability, and making choices that benefit the planet also benefit us as humans in our own personal lives and then in the greater picture around us. So that's a very long dog. So that's a really long roundabout way of basically just saying, I am so excited to dive into this financial aspect with you and dig a little bit deeper into how our personal choices within our spending and our budgeting can impact both the planet and our wallets in a positive way. So I'm often told by people that they want to make more sustainable choices, but they can't afford it. Or, that lifestyle, that zero waste living, that's just too expensive. First, I don't blame them when we're bombarded with ads and greenwashing from companies that are using labels like the word green or eco-friendly, basically telling us that we need all these products to actually be living eco-friendly or to be taking care of the planet. And not only is that often greenwashing, but it's also completely dismissing the fact that throughout all of our history up until this point, so many of these products weren't even in existence. They were not necessary for us to live our lives. And still within our current time, there are entire cultures and countries and groups of people who don't need these products to be living sustainably or to be living, a happy, healthy life that is also taking care of our planet. So what would you have to say to listeners and clients who want to live more sustainably, but they're afraid that they can't afford it?
Yeah, there's so much to that and so much to unpack, especially around this capitalistic, consumeristic belief of like, well, I have to buy the things in order to do the things. And it's things of like really just, instead of looking big, start looking small, start looking at your everyday sort of things and how you can tackle those. It can be things like, rather than cutting plastic completely out of your life, because that is a huge daunting task. And if that's what you're trying to accomplish day one, you are immediately setting yourself up for failure. Instead, like find like where's one piece of plastic that I can cut out of my life for good. Easy one is shopping bags, the grocery store bags. You can get the reusable totes. Sometimes you can get those for $1. Those are really cheap ways to get started and cut out that clutter. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, now I'm getting stuck with a bunch of produce plastic bags. Okay, I can spend $5 and get reusable produce bags. And it's just one step at a time. So you're biting things off in $5 chunks, $1 chunks, $3 chunks, as opposed to completely restructuring your life. Especially depending on where you are in your community, farmers markets might be available, they might not be available. Refill stations might be available, might not be. And so you have to kind of just take into account, what do you have access to, and start there. Every single step is a habit that you can build on, and it helps. There's this mental health ideology of anything worth doing is worth doing half-assed. And it's this idea that, if you're having a really bad day, you're supposed to brush your teeth for 2 minutes a day. But if you are just struggling to stand upright, brush your teeth for 30 seconds, because that's better than not brushing them at all. It's better to just take a washcloth over your face and your body than take a full shower. It's better to eat one bite of food than no food at all. These ideas of like, you just got to keep going in a forward motion. And the same goes with sustainable living, is, to take one step at a time, so that every step is a success and that every step builds on the previous steps. And then within that, the financial component is, it becomes significantly more manageable because you're just biting things off in smaller chunks. And when you can find ways to save $10 a year, that's a tiny little step. $10 a year, that's not even a drop in the bucket, but $10 a year over 10 years is $100. And depending on what you do with that $10, you could use that to buy your next small step. You could use it to invest and grow that money so that the $100 becomes $200. And then that's how you're able to afford the super green, eco-friendly vacuum cleaner, the bigger chunk, whatever it is you're trying to get. So it's all about these little steps and just starting where you are and recognizing that you can't go from 0 to 100, but you can go from 0 to 1, and then from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. And you just keep building that way.
Yes, I love that. This word sustainable has so much meaning to me. And a lot of my listeners might be joining because they've already been following my business ventures so far with That Minimal Life and my coaching and my blog. But we talk all the time about the fact that if you're living sustainably for the planet, trying to make these greener choices, but those habits aren't actually sustainable for you, you can't maintain that within your own life, whether that's due to your family's needs or your budget or your work schedule, whatever it is. If it's not sustainable, then it's not going to be a long lasting habit. And then you're going to end up feeling so frustrated in the process. And then, of course, there are so many people who are going to be looking at this grand scheme of things within living sustainably and thinking, there's no way I can afford that. There's no way that I can purchase all of these items and, completely cut out plastic in my life, like you said, and then buy all these new like glass containers or metal containers or whatever it is. But that domino effect, like you said, where one step just builds upon the other, that's where we need to start. And I think anybody can start somewhere. And so let me think more about how I want to transition. So then I wonder if you could give us some specific examples of some of those small dollars saved that you talked about that end up actually adding up to be a pretty big total. Like if you were to make more sustainable choices in one area and you save these dollars by doing that, do you have any specific examples that you could give some listeners that could relate to?
Yeah, it can be really tiny things like not buying paper towels, but also not buying the, famous green unpapered paper towels, because those cost somewhere from $25 to $80 for a really small pack.
Mm-hmm.
And, I looked at that and I'm like, okay, well, my dream is to have reusable cloths for cleaning and then also for napkins, all these different things, because I hate buying paper towels all the time. But I don't want to trade my, I don't know, $6 packet of paper towels for an $18 packet of washable paper towels. So instead, it was going to Goodwill and the Ark and thrift stores and things around me and finding old t-shirts that I could buy for 50 cents, cutting those up into rags for cleaning purposes. And then also finding like tablecloths that I could turn into cloth napkins, or actually finding cloth napkins. And that made it so that I was trading a $6 packet of paper towels for $6 at the thrift store and completing the exchange that I needed. So getting a little creative, you don't have to buy the thing that's specifically designed to replace the thing you're trying to stop buying. You can find your alternative ways around that. And then, of course, I would not be a financial advisor if I didn't yell at people for $6 lattes from Starbucks. Meanwhile, I am drinking a $6 latte from Starbucks, but in a reusable cup, it's fine. I saved 10 cents. But it's one of those where, finding those obvious things that we're constantly scolded about of don't buy the coffee, instead make your coffee at home. Or even finding ways to, really make the coffee at home worth it. Buying the espresso machine, buying the milk steamer, buying the milk frother, whatever it is.
I'm so sorry.
Animal's dead. It's all good.
Gosh, Nora, stop. I'm just gonna go close my door real quick.
Yeah.
My goodness. It's like I have somebody watching my son outside the house so that I didn't have any of that background noise. But then of course my dog is going to be going crazy.
Fortunately, my cats are in nap time right now. They're asleep. So we're fine there.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so sorry though.
All good.
Let's can we start back at when you said you wouldn't be a financial advisor if you didn't scold people? Okay, because I just think that'll sound a lot clearer.
Sure. Okay. And then I, of course, would not be a financial advisor if I didn't scold people for their $6 lattes. And thank goodness this is a podcast, so you can't see that I am drinking a $6 latte right now. And it's one of those things of like, finding those obvious things of make your coffee at home instead of spending money where they have to do a lot of plastic product creation because they're focused on bulk. They're not focused on sustainability, as well as then you're not getting the cup. You're not contributing to the plastic of all the packaging and all these different things. But it's also, like you said, it's not always a sustainable life habit. I am definitely addicted to my coffee house coffees. And so it's things of like, okay, how can I regulate this? Can I put a limit on it per week? Can I take my reusable cup in? Can I eventually invest in my own home espresso machine, and all these things? And I've started doing it where on the days that I don't go to Starbucks or the coffee shop to get that $6 latte, I put $6 into a jar. And it's like, okay, this was money I was going to spend, but I'm not spending it and I am saving it. And saving is removing from your spending area. Just not spending it does not count as saving. Saving only counts when you take it out of the equation and put it in a specified saving area. So I put that $6 in a jar, and that is quickly growing and growing because $6 accumulates very quickly. And I'm going to one day have my own home coffee station of the milk steamer, the espresso machine, all these things, so that it's like, I can make a better cup of coffee than any coffee shop around me. Why would I spend money there? So it's those little things of how can I exchange things so that I never, ever have to buy paper towels again in my life because I went to the Arc and I cut up some t-shirts. As well as like, how can I really cut back from the more frivolous spending that also contributes to a lot of waste as well. So you can do it from the small scale and you can do it from that medium scale. And then of course there's the large scale of solar panels and wind turbines and whatever it is else that you want for your house that's significantly out of reach when you're just starting.
Yes. Have you seen that visual? I've seen it as a meme and I don't know where else going around social media, but it's that meme of, oh my gosh, I keep hitting that thing. It's that meme that has a picture of a ladder, and I don't know if it's one ladder or two, but there's definitely two animals or people standing underneath it. And there's different labels on each of the steps of the ladder. And for example, if it was within sustainability, it's like solar powered panels that might be towards the top steps of the ladder. Down here towards the bottom, there might be those like exchanging of paper towels to cloth. So there's somebody who maybe climbed their way up the ladder and they're already this high. And then there's somebody who's just starting and they're looking up, and it's like, well, you can either look at those steps and think, oh, I'll never get there. That is so unattainable. Or you can just start where you are. You can just start with those steps that are within reach, and then they'll build upon themselves and you'll eventually get there if you want to, or you'll get to a place where at least you're comfortable with the choices that are being made. Oh, are you still there?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Internet kind of had like a big notification come on. Oh, okay. You've
totally
disabled my video. So,
oh no.
with your your settings, my video has been disabled. So I can't turn it back on.
So weird. Okay, let me change that real quick. I wonder why it just did that now. Okay, that should allow you to start your video now.
There we go. I'm back.
So weird.
Sorry.
I don't know why it did that. It like this point in the call. Okay.
Yeah. Who knows?
So weird.
But yeah, the meme with the ladder, I totally get it.
So you can either, choose to be totally overwhelmed by the amount of steps that are ahead of you, or you just start where you are and you start taking the steps that are within reach. And then at some point you will reach a point where you're either totally comfortable with all the choices that are being made in your life, or if you want to go further, you could go further. But I love the fact that you are visually setting aside this $6 every single time you don't buy a latte. And you can see that in a jar. I mean, I don't often have cash on me anymore. So I love the idea of actually going back to a visual system. I think I would spend a whole lot less if I were paying attention to the dollars that I am not spending by putting them in a jar, and then ending up with an awesome coffee espresso machine and whole little
Yeah,
setup
just
that
the
you have.
whole complete setup. Yeah, and if you don't work a lot in cash, you can literally take sticky notes and write $6 on it and put that in a jar.
Oh,
Or
that's a
you
good
can
idea.
get Yeah, or you can get pebbles, and one pebble represents $1, and you put that in there. And then what I do is at the end of every month, I take that dollar amount, because it's usually a combination of cash and pebbles, just kind of based on what I have available to me. Um, but I take that total number and I transfer that number out of my checkings account into my high yield savings account so
Hmm.
that I can, really also make that money grow more money so that I can achieve that coffee maker sooner. That's my little financial trick. That's something that you can achieve with a financial advisor who has access to those sort of accounts for you to really make your money work harder for you, grow faster for you, and make these sustainable purchases accessible to you that much sooner.
That is so smart. Seriously, I think of all the times where I haven't technically spent that money, but then if I'm not putting it somewhere into an actual savings account or something like that, or, a physical jar, then it can easily just be spent in some other way. And I'm just mindlessly going through these purchases, not really thinking about it. So I love those suggestions. I think that's really, really useful. And then with going back to the cloth example, I love that you brought up thrifting as a solution for a lot of these things. If you want to save money and you also want to benefit the planet, then reusing what you already have or what somebody else already had, it's already in existence, and now it can be passed along to you and repurposed. That makes so much more sense than going out and buying something brand new most of the time.
Absolutely. Sometimes you do have to buy the thing new because that's its purpose. If you're really trying to replace something and make it something that's going to last years and years and years and years, sometimes buying new is kind of your only option. But especially for cleaning products, in this case, specifically cleaning rags, why in the world would I spend money on something nice and pretty when its entire function is to get dirty? So let me just go get whatever is available to me in my area. And I love that TikTok and Instagram and all these things, there's this trend of how can I create a $50 looking vase from something I got for $2 at the thrift store? How can I recreate this? How can I repurpose this? And so there is also a cultural push for all of this from a sustainable point of view, from a financially sustainable point of view. And, you can really just let go of this image of it being perfect because it looks perfect, or is it perfect because it works? And I think that's where we run into a lot of issues is we have that ego of it has to look pretty. It has to look functional. It has to look like something I can proudly display on Instagram. And it's like, but what is your goal? If your goal is sustainability, then the uglier the better, because that's when you're really using what's available to you. So, let go of that. Let go of that drive that it has to look perfect and instead focus on the usability of it. And you'll see that you're achieving more sustainably and your dollar's going further because you're literally not spending it.
Yes, I love that. And everybody's interests are going to be different. Not everybody is going to have the same DIY that looks appealing to them or that's even doable for them. And then reusing what you have over and over again, for some people, that might be a totally different category than someone else. For me, I know that I reused or just kept using my little flip phone for years and years, well into the years where smartphones were, invented and also used by everybody. And I just continued using this little flip phone for the longest time. But it genuinely saved me so much money. And then it also was a time saver because I could not actually get on the internet on that phone. And so I wasn't accessing all the things that I love to access now. But I know that now, I mean, I did eventually switch and I've got my awesome smartphone. and I could never go back to the way that I lived before, but it benefited me for a really long time. And then now with the smartphone that I have, I think that I've upgraded it once, but I seriously try to get the most use out of it as possible. So I keep that phone for years and years until it's just not working anymore, or it's not able to be upgraded anymore. And then I'll finally get this newer phone rather than keeping up with like all the new versions of phones that are coming out year after year. So that's just one example that I know I related to personally. For somebody else, it might be something totally different. I wrote down a note of something to get back to. And with those DIY projects, some people are way craftier than I am, and I love to look at what they come up with on Pinterest. And some of it is just not totally doable for me, but I know that a lot of those DIY projects can save you a bunch of money. And I've looked at different recipes where you can make your own dish soap or you can make your own household cleaner just using products that you probably have on hand. Some of them even have to do with like food scraps, like citrus peels and vinegar. But a lot of that can be super money savers and time savers as well. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the balance that we average folks could find between, the people that we'll see a lot on social media that have retired early, maybe they retired in their 30s, and they are complete diehard zero wasters. Like they DIY everything. And that's how they were able to retire early, plus combined with some awesome investments or something like that. And then on the other side of that, we've got a lot of us who are just spending without really thinking about the future. Could you speak a little bit to where's the balance within that? Where do you generally meet people so that maybe their goal is not to save so much waste and save so much money that then they, retire early and they do everything themselves? But where's the balance between all of that?
I think a lot of it is thinking about the future. You hit on something really important right there, is thinking about your future, both the planetary future and your own life future, whether that's retirement, whether that's working until you're 90 and dying on your feet because you absolutely love your job, whatever it is. But thinking about the future, when we spend mindlessly, it's because we haven't thought about what our future looks like, what our goals are, and what steps we have to take in order to achieve that. Because we're living in just right now. And absolutely, there's so much to gain from living in the present, not hitting that at all from a meditative, spiritual live in the present, but from a financial and planetary concept, we do have to think about the future. Are we wanting to live in a future where there's trash in every single gutter and it's there because we contributed to it? Or do we want to live in a world where we don't have to do any sort of promotion around save the turtles because we have saved the turtles, because we've completely cut out plastic and all these things? So really thinking, what sort of future do you want? And what kind of steps do I need to be taking to work towards that future? And again, the small steps. What can I do today? What can I do next week? What is my goal for next year, for 5 years from now? What do I have to do in order to achieve that? And it's the same concept from a financial situation. When I meet with my clients, the number one conversation that we have is, what are your dreams? What are you trying to accomplish in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 30 years? What are you trying to accomplish? And then we look at your current financial situation and figure out, what can we do now with what you have to get you to where you want to be? And so it's that future perception, it's that future focus. So if your focus is, I want to live a more sustainable life, but I also want to be very financially well, then we try and figure out, how can we get these dreams to work together? So it's, how can I cut down on my spending by also cutting down on my waste? because there can be a financial component to going zero waste. Like I said, depending on where you live. If you have to drive 30 minutes to a farmer's market in order to buy produce without any sort of plastic, that's an hour both ways. And that's gas money, that's miles on your car, all these things. It might not be the most financially advantageous move for you right now. So what can we do right now? Well, a thrift store is just down the street. Start with removing your paper products, your plastic products, things like that. And then as that becomes easier, and as you're saving that money, it becomes easier for you to take that drive to the farmer's market or the refill station or whatever it is through there. So it's really just focusing on your future goals and then working backwards and creating those small steps.
Mm. That's super helpful. I'm pausing to think through this next question.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being so patient with all that.
All good.
You know, in the totally side comment, you know, in The Office, have you ever seen The Office?
I've seen enough memes and video clips to feel like I've seen The Office without having ever seen The Office.
Okay.
So
there's one of the main characters is Michael Scott, Steve Carell's character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just this one line that comes into my head all the time where he's in an interview and he's just rambling and rambling. And then it cuts to him, you know, in the next room being interviewed by the camera person. And he's like, sometimes I just start a sentence without really knowing where it's going. And I just hope that it'll catch up to me as I'm in it. And like, I never want that to be my experience here.
I feel like that's me when I'm like, I'm hoping I'm answering the question because I can't even remember what the question is right now.
That's why I keep taking notes on this little scrap paper because I'm like trying so hard to remember what I asked, what you said, and then something I want to respond to.
Right.
Yeah. Thankful I can edit this.
Mm-hmm.
So you've given some really tangible and helpful examples so far with how to be mindful of your spending and how to make your money work harder for you. And then connecting all of this into living sustainably for the planet as well. I love your examples. I really love the visuals that you've given so far. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit with your expertise into the accessibility category, because I know that that's a lot of what your team focuses on. And we've talked about how anyone can start anywhere, reusing what they already have or making thrifted purchases. It doesn't have to be super expensive or anything, but could you speak a little bit to the accessibility piece? If there are listeners on this podcast who feel like they still can't really make very eco-friendly choices because they don't have access to something like you said, a farmer's market nearby or a refill shop or something like that. Could you expand a little bit more on the accessibility piece and your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think that accessibility is coming in small ways that we just have to retrain our.
I'm so sorry.
Want me to restart?
I don't know why she's going crazy out there.
Because you're not paying attention to her.
And she's all the way downstairs and I can't believe how loud she's being. I'm trying to decide if I yeah, and I might just bring her in here because maybe she's barking at something outside, and if she's just in here with the door closed, maybe she'll stop. Yeah, I'll do that real quick and then we'll restart and then we'll be wrapping up soon too.
It's all good. No worries. I'm good.
Thank you. She's sneezing. I don't know
She's
if you
got the
can hear
sneezing. Yeah.
it. Dog, go lay down. Go. Go lay down. Oh my gosh.
Okay. One with two more.
I thought bringing her in here would be solving this problem, and
I
now
love it.
she's not
It's
going to
all
stop
good.
sneezing. Okay. Well, thankfully,
Good. Okay.
if we start over, she keeps sneezing, I can just like silence my audio track. So
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, sneezing dogs are adorable. Everyone loves them. It's fine.
thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that sustainability is becoming more and more accessible as there is a growing need for it. I know I live in a neighborhood that fortunately has a refill station, but farmers markets are not really here. So I have one, but not the other. But I'm even finding that in stores like Target and King Soopers and Walmart, for all my Colorado people who know what a King Soopers is, it's a grocery store. I'm finding that you can get soap refill bottles and not just the old, really cruddy soap from our childhood, but the better soap is coming in refill packets. We're starting to see brands like Seventh Generation that have a focus on being sustainable. Maybe they're not perfect. They're definitely not perfect because they're still wrapped in plastic, but they're at least there. And that can be a semi-step. We're also blessed with the internet where you can order a lot of products into you, especially with COVID. I've even seen refill shops do a little bit more shipping, a little bit more curbside. They'll come to you. They're becoming more mobile because they had to find ways to survive, which means that they're improving their accessibility. So some of it can be waiting for it or finding just what is available to you, ordering online. My favorite tricks for ordering online is to bulk buy, whether that's I purchase 6 months supply of something, or I call up my mom or my best friend who lives in the area and say, hey, I'm ordering from this store. They have a sale going on right now, something like that. Do you want anything there? And we'll combine our purchases so that only one box is being shipped as opposed to 2 boxes. As well as if I'm just buying for myself, I'm only getting 1 box every 6 months as opposed to 1 box every month because I'm individually buying. And I usually don't have to pay for shipping that way because I have a real irk with paying for shipping. I like to pay for product, so there's things like that you can do to sort of counteract that accessibility. If you really want to get involved in it, start to become the accessibility. Figure out, how can I start the refill station in my community? How can I get a farmer's market to come here? Or can I charter a bus to drive people from my community to a farmer's market once a month? Figure out, how can I become that change? If that's within your power, if that's within your budget, if that's within your means, or even just finding the little things that you can do. Like I said, it's the little steps. And the more you take those little steps, the more your community stores are going to realize that there is someone in our community who wants this sustainability within our community. So we're going to answer it. We're going to start getting the better brands. We're going to start doing all these different things to make it more accessible.
I love that these suggestions end up caring for the planet, benefiting your wallet, and then it also really brings together this community piece that you've touched on. I know that for the clients that I coach, that has been huge. Not only are we building a community between each other and then the people I connect them with, but it usually spreads within their families and their friend circles. And everybody starts working together on these things because as soon as you've got one person excited about this, or even just taking the initiative and doing, like you said, hey, I'm going to do this bulk order of something. Do you have anything that you need from such and such business, and let's get it all shipped in one box? I think that brings back this community piece that we're often missing, at least in modern day Western civilization, where so much of what we do is just go, 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 and it's focused on our own households. And not that there's anything particularly wrong with that all the time, but it can be very isolating sometimes. And so I love that this sustainability and financial savings piece is often connected with building a strong community around you as well. Mhm. So you've provided just tons of expertise and so many tangible, attainable examples. I'm really so appreciative of your time. And I'm wondering, just to wrap up this part of the conversation, could you share one or two or three actionable steps that our listeners could take, as soon as today? After listening to this episode, maybe they're motivated and inspired and they're full of hope. They want to make some financial changes that will benefit them and also the planet. What would be 1 to 3 actionable steps that you would recommend right off the bat that would benefit both their budget and then also the earth at the same time?
Yeah, I think step number one, the primary thing is get clear on what it is that you're wanting to do. Because if you don't have that clear vision, you're going to start firing in a bunch of different ways, in a bunch of different directions. And that means you're going to buy the first thing that you see, or you're going to take the very first action that comes to mind. And then next week realize, oh, that wasn't right. Now I have to rebuy this. I have to redo this. So take a second to get still first. Take your passion, channel it inward, really focus on what am I trying to accomplish? What is important to me? What is available to me? What is my budget? Where am I spending money that I don't want to be spending money? Try and get as clear as you can there. And then from there, I think the most important step after that is don't go at it alone. Don't do this alone, whether that's getting your family involved, your friends involved, your office involved, your neighbors involved, whoever it is that you can get involved there, or working with a sustainability coach who can really tell you that's greenwashing versus this is actually sustainable, or working with a financial advisor who can get a fresh set of eyes on your budget and on your spending to say, this is actually where you're spending a lot of money that you don't need to be spending, or to open up that high yield savings account to make your money go further. Or if money is something that you have, taking that and being like, okay, let's invest this, let's grow this, but let's put it into specifically ethical companies and green companies so that you're growing your money and you're helping these companies do better in the planet. So don't go at it alone is my other thing. Regardless of where you are in your budget, there is someone that you can bring in to help you. And then step 3, we've been talking about a lot, is just start small, start obtainable, start sustainable, and build your way up. You don't have to save the planet tomorrow. You just have to do one thing.
Perfect. I could not have said any of that better myself. And that is such a great wrap up to this conversation and a really nice transition into my final question for you, which is, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in the services that you offer? You're clearly super just savvy with all of these great suggestions that you could offer people to help them save money. And then I love that you're also very in tune with sustainability. So I'm curious, how could they connect with you? And then also, what is a general baseline or just summary of the cost and what it's like to work with you? Would you be able to share that?
Yeah, so I can absolutely share how much it costs to work with me because it's zero.
Oh,
It's
wow.
$0. Yeah, everything I do for my clients is complimentary. Again, that's one of the things that I love about my office is we want to make financial services accessible to everyone, especially the people who need it, who are the people who don't have a lot of expendable cash. So we don't charge anything for our services. I can meet to just go over budgeting. I can go over investing. I can go over debt management, full plans, small plans, whatever it is that you're looking for, all for the same price of $0, which I absolutely love. So absolutely get in touch with me. I am on Facebook and Instagram. My pages are Worth More, Get More. So Instagram, it's at Worth More, Get More. You can even just send me an email saying that you heard about me from here or wherever. It's belle.kraxberger@gmail.com. Hopefully you'll put my name in the show notes, because
I will.
good old German heritage there. I've got a mouthful of a last name. But yeah, just reach out to me with any sort of questions, any sort of need, and I can help you out.
That is fantastic. I am just blown away by that. It gives me chills. And I feel like there are so many people who hopefully will be turning to you. And I know that I myself am going to be turning to you, because I've got some business questions that I would love your advice on.
Absolutely.
Oh man, thank you so much for being on this call today. This has been just super valuable. I've definitely gained a lot from this conversation, and I'm sure that our listeners have as well. So thank you for your time. And again, I will put all of those ways to contact you in the episode description. And
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm like, what's a better way? What's the
Good.
last line I can wrap that up with?
Nah, all good.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for having
joining.
me.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, I will stop this recording now.